master was very talented, very obviously not going to give up easily. Jin had the fortune of being trained by one of the world's best duelists and master Yukiko. Obi-Wan was trained by Qui-Gon, and he was a formidable duelist, but nothing like that of his master. Yet the two Jedi used each other as to keep their strength together. Maul was extremely acrobatic as he flipped around without a notion of being able to be stopped by the two Jedi. Maul was fierce. His double-sided lightsaber slammed back on the two Jedi. Jin hadn't faced the double-sided lightsaber.
Our best plan.
Let's try this again.
You think you can...
Took the duel as seriously as they could. Jin knew that they needed to kill Maul.
Nerve Gallet.
They didn't. Jin went down and
Not enough.
Wait. One was naturally
Nev.
Too much plasma.
That was obviously
Your friend,
Maul.
Nev Gallet.
I heard,
As much of a
although
front as he could against Maul. Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan needed to calm down and work together.
Sis, don't get...
Waiting for the
All right.
moment to reveal himself. Maul was
I hope
here to
Nev's
kill
as good at
the
finding
Jedi,
people as
no
you claim.
more and
She's
no less.
the best damn detective I've ever met. If she says she's
Taught
got
to
a
be a
lead on
warrior.
Solus,
The Jedi
I believe
had
her.
been taught to be peacekeepers and only to fight when it was necessary. Now Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan were in the grind. They had to fight their way out of the space pool they were trapped in with Maul. Kenobi faked forward as Maul bounced for a counterattack before having to sidestep a strike by Jin. Maul had prepared the layout of his battle, and he knew he would have a better advantage if he went forward into a massive energy room. Maul used the Force to break open the hangar bay doors as he leapt backwards onto the massive walkway with a drop that looked to be bottomless. Qui-Gon threw his hand into Obi-Wan's chest, like a sort of seatbelt, as he told Kenobi,
"Stay here, Obi-Wan. He wants us to follow him. We must be mindful."
But Master, we have him. He's one, we are two.
And he knows that. He wouldn't lead us here if he believed he could beat us without his own advantage. We must be patient, and let him come to us. He doesn't have the patience to keep the charade up for long.
What makes you think that, Master?
Look at his stance, Obi-Wan. He's poised like a star next to him. We must let him starve himself out. The chances that his master convinced him he could kill us were very high. He's learning that Jedi aren't as weak as the Sith like to believe.
Obi-Wan looked at Maul and noticed that Maul was giddy on his feet. He jumped back and forth with the inability to find a calm resolve. Obi-Wan then looked over to his master as he realized that Qui-Gon had set himself into a shoulder-width apart stance with his blade next to his chest, with the calm and steady breathing of the wind. Obi-Wan sometimes was very standoffish with his master.
Should we
It was
be
moments
in
like
more of a
this that
hurry
made
to get
Obi-Wan
out of
truly
here?
appreciate
We
the
don't
bond
want
he
to
had
look
with his future.
conspicuous.
Obi-Wan
Just get out
saved
of here
himself
nice and
and
casual.
enjoyed his
Find
master
that
as he
Gallus
calmed down
and stop
shouted his
Solus.
own breath. The two Jedi watched Maul. His anger began to rise as his legs couldn't stop moving. His impatience
You
made
still
him weak,
think you can
and the
talk him
Jedi
down
pried
before
on
he
it.
starts his
They
big
saw the
ritual?
opportunity to seize
That
it
ritual
because
is
he
going to
had
tear
rise
down
above
the
it.
veil. The only thing separating us from the Fade and an endless number of
Bobby,
demons.
Obi-Wan and
I
Qui-Gon
have to
were
talk him
simultaneously as they launched the lightsaber attack on Maul. The lightsaber bounced off the Jedi blades and Maul pulled it back
Wait!
with his hands.
But I didn't do
Maul then
anything!
leapt into the air above the two Jedi into the massive
Get
room.
down.
Kenobi and Jin doubled
They
back
after
as
us.
they looked
Is it
in
because of the
form
bar?
four, and
Word
moved
travels
their legs
fast
back.
in Minrathous.
As Maul came
We've
down
gotta
from the
help
ceiling, Obi-Wan swung forward as Jin doubled back. The Master Apprentice had Maul just
Don't
where they
have time
wanted
to get
him.
arrested,
Maul was vicious
especially
as he
if-
swung violently against Obi-Wan. The younger Jedi had the stamina and the skill to play defense against Maul, and while Kenobi hadn't become Master Halother or even the Master of Form 3 yet, he was still very accomplished duelist. Qui-Gon jumped over as he tried to pull the stool.
The ritual
Jin was
started,
amazed by the charisma
but if
of
we
his
hurry,
students.
we can
There was
still
a
stop
sudden motion
Solus
to
before it
over a
finishes.
block and a strike.
Let's
Kenobi
go.
blade behind his back and blocked a strike in his spine.
This
It
way.
was allowed.
She'll
Some
get
space
us to
between
Dumont
his
Plaza.
ball.
Then
His
Nev will
assassin
get us to
was
Solus.
back. Escapes caught
Watch
the
out!
Jedi moved, especially after Jin ran away from Admiral.
Solus something
Prime
else.
Jedi.
My guess is the veil is weakening, and they're slipping through the
Surely
cracks.
certain Jedi fear
And when the veil comes down completely,
And the whole world is going to look a lot like this.
Mention and the back of the visual eyes of Maul.
Come on, this way. It should get us to Harding.
Master made him believe that he would be challenged in the face of the Jedi, something which was very surprising for him. He wasn't able to kill them almost instantaneously. Maul set himself in a Jin and he at the same time. It's an assassin.
You're safe now.
He wasn't
Get
prepared
inside and
for this
bar the
moment.
doors quick as you
he
can,
swung his
okay?
blade
Thank you,
back,
Max.
he He overstepped as Kenobi peered into Maul's chest with a lightsaber.
You all
Maul's
right?
eyes shot open.
I've been doing what I can to
Felt
help.
his life.
The
body.
ritual must be
There was
weakening the
nowhere
veil.
for
There
him
are a
to
lot
escape.
of scared people out here.
Felt.
And a lot of demons.
Just felt homeless.
Haven't seen this
Forced on
many
his
come
body.
through the Fade
There
in
was no escape
years.
from the death that was coming for him. Qui-Gon duped Maul and led away.
What about you two?
Now,
Are you
he
okay?
placed his hand on Maul's forehead and used the Force to calm him. She knew that Maul would have made
Fought some
a fine
demons,
Jedi.
and the Archon's
But
palace took a few
not
shots at us.
said.
Nothing we couldn't
Obi-Wan
handle.
looked at
Speak
Jin
for
and
yourself.
asked,
Have you got my gear?
Right over there. Where's Nev Gallus? Wasn't she at the meeting point?
Venatori got to her first. We grabbed her before we arrived and paid off the bar owner to keep it quiet.
I'm not surprised our detective did something to piss off a cult of murderous blood mages, but their timing stinks.
Obi-Wan nodded
The
as
bar
Maul's
owner said
eyes
the
lost their
Venator-
yellow
Rook,
tint
you're
and
with the
faded
Shadow
away.
Dragon.
Sure, but when Wrath is
Don't worry. Scout, follow me.
The very first time in his life,
Eyes up.
ever since his birth, he was stolen from his tribe, left back on the Paladin and the Sidious. As if Lord and Skull
Demons, here they come.
His heart and his ears seemed to be white. He was trained to be hampered on the dark side. Before that, the city, I could tell the terrified expression on Maul's face by the time the battle was over. It wasn't that he feared the Jedi. He had lived longer to see that his master had to survive the duel. The probably of the Jedi
That's
minds,
the last of them.
but because death was
Good.
knocking
Let's
on
get
his
to
door,
Dumont Plaza
he had
and
no
find
one
Nev.
that death was feared.
You two all
Qui-Gon
right?
stood up and
Patch
walked over
yourselves up
to
if
them
you
like
need it.
this, placing his hand on his shoulder.
I don't get
It was
it.
time that they searched for
The Solus
Anakin.
tears
How
down
they
the
could
veil.
the
Doesn't
rest
that
of their
destroy
soul.
everything?
Two Jedi
Someone's
got back
always
to
talked
the
about how
bed.
beautiful the ancient world
missing.
was.
The echoes
That
of blaster
world
fire were
existed
also
before
gone.
the veil, and he wants to
Anger
bring it
Bay,
back.
barren,
Even
a
if his
barren
ritual
land of
kills us all in
silence
the process.
and destruction. The palace then shook when the sound of an AT-AT exploding outside Anger Bay erupted. Obi-Wan looked at Qui-Gon as if he were asking what the incident was. Qui-Gon didn't know himself. All that mattered at the moment was that the people that would be free from the Trade Federation.
Oh no, I think
One
that's
thing
enough.
happened. Across the liberation was seeing the light of day. The Troid army began collapsing after almost destroying the entirety of the Roman army. Admin and Guard were able to secure the Northern and capture the London. This was all because Anakin Skywalker and his hand Billy Choi, R2-D2, destroyed the looper vault that was in orbit. All the droids were wired to the vessel. Once the main structure was destroyed, the droid lost their power source and they were dead. In the coming hours, Anakin would arrive in Anger Bay safely with the rest of the pilots. Having one day break and off the Republic alive. And the Jedi would accompany the elected chancellor of the
Fight these
Republic,
assholes every day in the Shadow
out
Dragons.
the planet. The Jedi had already discussed their plans for Skywalker and had passed a ruling on whether on Skywalker would be allowed to be the order. If the vote passed no, 5-8-5, it would reveal the intention of Qui-Gon for an answer. Qui-Gon had talked about his intentions in training, and Qui-Gon also expressed their ability to bring the past trials. Once the Jedi Council arrived, basically Luke and Qui-Gon separated. At the same time, Luke and Anakin also separated.
Kill them all!
Making of the Jedi Knights, and his work in killing his assassin, and continuing to fulfill his mandate in the Jedi Order. Obi-Wan could have a position. He worked hard for it, and he certainly earned it. Obi-Wan was celebrated as a Jedi Knight. He wasn't sure what the master had gone off to. Obi-Wan found Anakin saving rather tentatively. Wanting to be a Jedi, and he was going to train as a Jedi as far as he could. The prospect of being the Peacekeeper of the Galaxy brought forth his heart. So he found that the Jedi had born from the galaxy, also because he was a slave, and seeking out people reacting to the Jedi, well, inspired Anakin to keep them. Qui-Gon and Mace talked on the side of the street, as they rose and after the Mace and two Jedi Masters discussed the fate of the boy.
Qui-Gon, we cannot allow the boy into our ranks. The council has put it to a vote, and the majority decided to not allow
Not the worst
him.
timing.
Why do you fear him?
Nev,
It's
it's so good to see you. We thought the
Venatori
Venatori had kidnapped you.
They thought the same. A lot of Venator figured I'd play along, and the sky
He has the
started
opportunity
raining.
to
A pretty
be volatile.
Nev meet Rook.
Isn't that a coincidence?
Some old friends
Even
said
more
of-
than that, he's too old. The Pope forbids
Nice to meet you.
councils being
Based on the
included for votes
Venatori, you've got
along
excellent
that
taste in
muscle.
enemies.
Look,
I do my best.
there are two options.
You said
Forget about the boy.
I haven't seen.
And
I
remain
traced it.
with the Jedi.
What?
Yourself. Or you leave it to train him.
So if we do catch
Then the
Solus,
council will
or
not
that
change
Dread
its
whatever he
minds.
calls himself,
Once the
what's the
celebrations
plan?
are over,
He wants to
I
bring
will
down
take
the
the boy
veil.
and train him myself.
When that ritual
Gaze
takes
him out
his full
on the
attention.
as
So
Qui-Gon
we
turned
catch
around
him
and
while he's
walked
doing
away.
his ritual,
There
so he
wasn't
can't
even
fight
a
us.
of remorse or regret. They
It
seemed
comes
to
to
want
us
to
trained
fight
to
on
fight.
but the fact
I'm
that
getting too
changes
old for this.
something that surprised them. These would have a lasting effect on the Jedi Order. It wasn't Anakin that Dukes was worried about. He never wanted Anakin to be a part of the Order anyways, but it was the fact that Dooku had shown tendencies to want to leave the Order. With Qui-Gon leaving it, it would certainly give Dooku more incentive to join his former student in leaving the Jedi. This would backfire heavily in those days. Dooku was Yoda's final student, and having a student leave because of a decision the Council voted on, he would vote on the Jedi Council. He held his head up, and in the corner and saw Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, and Dooku walking together. Obi-Wan, I want to congratulate you for this unit becoming a Jedi Knight. Well, that's why I wanted to talk to you. Even the Jedi Knight. Wow. Council will not betray that. I promised that I would train him. That is what I intend. Sunday, Council does not see eye to eye.
I can get
surely
it.
there has to be another
Which makes perfect sense, Qui-Gon.
So this is
Obi-Wan.
the Dread Wolf's
You must
hideout.
see that the Council has its faults,
Not sure
and
how
should
long
be
he's
held
been here.
accountable for them.
Some of
Qui-Gon,
this looks
if you
ancient.
feel it is
Solus
right,
has been around
then I will
longer
help
than
you
the
train the boy.
Rathas itself.
Obi-Wan looked at both Jedi Masters. His heart broke. He didn't know what to do. His master was leaving, and so was his Grand Master Dooku.
Broken chains.
Obi-Wan had
Solus
two
is freeing
masters in
slaves.
a row that led
Solus
back to
hates
him,
slavery.
feuding or
One of the
die,
few things
and
we
now
actually
he didn't know what
agreed
to do. A
he
million
said
thoughts
the
ran
other
through his
elven
head
gods
as
were
he looked at
tyrants
the
who
Jedi that
oppressed
stood
his
before
people.
him.
He was
Dooku
trying
placed
to
his
help
hand
them.
on Qui-Gon's shoulder in a reassuring way,
What do you see?
as if to tell his
No
former
sign of
student
Solus.
that he'd back him up
Just a
all the
big
way in this.
glowing window
Obi-Wan,
or
to a
mirror
certain
or
extent,
something.
felt abandoned.
Well, that
Sure, he was
sounds
no
odd.
longer Qui-Gon's student,
Ancient
but it felt
elves
like his
doing
teacher was
something
giving
to
up on him to
drag
train
him,
someone
I think.
else, abandoning the order to train someone who may not react well to being trained in the way of the Jedi. Obi-Wan looked behind him around. He thought lost his heart, and Qui-Gon walked over and put his hand on his shoulder and said to him,
You have worn my leaving on time. You are very excellent. I know that if you follow your heart, you will find what was truly pleasure.
Obi looked at the master with confusion on his face, as Qui-Gon smiled softly and nodded his head, as if to gesture to something they were both talking about or actively implying. But Obi-Wan had no clue. Qui-Gon had an idea in his mind, but it was up to Obi-Wan to find out what it was and what he needed to find. Qui-Gon remembered something from his own past and something
Sounds
his
like
own
that opened
past.
something
Both
below.
were very similar.
Then let's have a
Something
look.
that made both Jedi almost leave the Order. Qui-Gon regretted it, but now he had Skywalker in train. He understood that the Force was leading him towards something greater. He believed that Kenobi could also find something greater beyond that of a normal Jedi.
This the
He
big
was
glowing
hoping that
window you
his
saw
leaving
earlier,
would
Rogue.
inspire Obi-Wan. And though Qui-Gon was surprised that Dooku would just leave the Order, he was happy to have Dooku with him. It provided him the opportunity to train Anakin in a way that no one had ever
We're
been
not
taught.
on Rathas
Well, maybe
anymore.
once or twice
I
in the
know
past,
these
but
trees.
never recently.
This
Before the
is
celebration could
Arlathan
begin,
Forest.
Anakin, Dooku, and Qui-Gon
And
would
there's
send
your
themselves
ritual.
away under the cover
Power
of the
involved.
excitement in the streets.
Never
The
seen
trio would
anything
take a
like
shuttle that the Queen allowed them to take, and thanks to their kindness and dedication to her and to her people, they would take the shuttle back
The
to Anakin's
tremors are
homeworld.
getting worse.
But he did know that it was somewhere special, by the relative excitement from Qui-Gon and Dooku. The trip was relatively short, but ended up back on the planet Anakin hated the most. They were back on Tatooine, instead of Dooku and Anakin stayed in the ship, while Qui-Gon left. Anakin didn't know where Qui-Gon was good, but during the meantime, he and Dooku got relatively good with one another. They talked about anything and everything. Anakin was curious as to why Dooku left the Order, and he explained himself. Question Qui-Gon, he was tired of the hypocrisy of the Council. The way the Jedi was fine, but they
The
could become
demons
too
were bad
political.
back in
And
Minrathous.
because of that,
Faith
they
and
were
medicine
allowed to
supposed to
suffer.
ritual.
Anakin wished to much but was sent to it by Dooku.
Does it
But
feel
when
like
Qui-Gon came back, Anakin jumped out of his skin. It had only been a day or two since he was last here, but he was excited to see his mother. Qui-Gon had freed her from slavery. He and Dooku had enough credits to free her. But for now, they would be leaving Tatooine after setting Shmi up with enough credits to get herself started in Mos Espa. It was the gift that kept on giving for Anakin. Finding the Jedi, being kind to them, offering them shelter, and winning a race for them, they could have abandoned him. But they didn't. They took care of him, and they would continue to take care of him for the meantime. From Tatooine, the former two Jedi would take Anakin to a planet in the Mid-Rim called Undrilion. It was a green and blue globe in the middle of the Mid-Rim. Its lush forests once housed a group of Force users, wielders of the balance and bringers of peace. They are originally a splinter group of the Jedi. These beings practice under the name of the Aturand. They were extinguished by the Sith over a millennia before the era of the High Republic. The Aturand practiced the Force much like the Barad-dûr sages, and they were even very friendly with them. The Aturand didn't go too far away from Undrilion as they preferred keeping close to their homeworld. But when it came to protecting and serving the people in the galaxy, they found themselves going out. It's what led them to being found by the Sith and eventually being destroyed by the Sith, though their ruins remained. Once the three arrived, Anakin was in shock by what they found. Dooku was impressed as well. He had learned about the Aturand at one point in his life, but he never thought that Jin would take them to Undrilion to teach Skywalker. Regardless, Qui-Gon stepped out as he looked around and watched Anakin's eager eyes look over the temple that stood before them. The sun was beginning to set on the Bokor temple. The sun lined over Anakin's eyes as a smile glimmered under his nose. He looked back at Master Qui-Gon, who smiled gently, and then spoke up as he directed Anakin to look at the Bokor temple.
Anakin, this is the Bokor Temple, home of the ancient Uturand. These Force users were not Grey Jedi, but they respected the Force and all it had to offer. The Uturand code was that of honor, truth, humility, and knowledge. Here, Master Dooku and I will teach you these traits.
So, I'll become an Uturand?
No. You will become who you were always meant to be, Anakin. The one meant to bring balance to the Force.
Anakin smiled. He was excited, but he wasn't truly aware of what the two former Jedi
Tremors
were
are getting worse.
Qui-Gon would take their roles as father and grandfather. He would be his teacher and responsibilities and measurement. He would teach him the intensity of his responsibility. Qui-Gon moved on from past, but secretly he was happy that the Jedi Council essentially forced him out of the order. He was so much harder. Qui-Gon treated Anakin like a Jedi. Miserable as a student. Here on Undrilion, we have a wide open space, the code of an ancient, non-Jedi
I
religion,
get tremors
and the
every time
confidence
one of those big
code.
crystals at the ritual
Why
site lights
would
up.
also be the perfect
Not many
guides
of
for
them left
Anakin.
light.
Sure,
Might
they
want to
weren't
hurry.
necessarily superior humans, but anything, their own Qui-Gon the water comes down to reach the temple. Nothing. Something. So he could go out himself and experience it for the first time. Qui-Gon and Dooku talked back and forth with each other, and each had a great deal of concern about how they would treat the boy. As Dooku returned,
Qui-Gon, how do you intend on training Anakin? First, you must be what Anakin has always been missing. You will teach him
Almost there.
not just the ways of the Uturand, but the Force.
Dooku understood the direction. Anakin had never had a father or a father figure, so he would do that. Probably argues with Skywalker to introduce him very opportunity. Celebrated on fashion. About time also able to freedom and one was like for the first time. When the morning came, they were in the street. All the
Quite
to
a
see
few of them, aren't
as
there?
how the Skywalker would go. They trusted the ritual to have everything. Now, Skywalker, actually, on the other side of the galaxy, both one of these speaking out why not, but we said, what's your something? He spoke to himself as he walked around the small room he had. His house was like, I get you to say, what things to be. I lost my house.
We have to stop this demon quickly.
That's not then that's all. I don't think Pokemon around how to bring someone into the
Watch the lightning!
but what other options do you have? mission was also
It's a pride demon. Damn thing probably sensed Solus's ego.
Pokemon sounds like quiet for a moment. Watch the power tree. It's one stop and silence. Only one thought right in his head.
Everyone all right?
Good enough. Let's get to Solus.
She wouldn't touch with Amanda. She didn't have time for stuff like that. Why would she care? Sure, they had a nice moment from them, but when they were with each other, still, Pokemon got down against the bed, and leads them back against the wall. Who's Jedi? But not so Amanda. Sure, Qui-Gon was time, but they were so mysterious. They didn't give him a clear direction. Maybe there was a clear direction, but he didn't know what it was. The
anyone can get through to him,
Anakin jumped with excitement.
Thanks, Rook. Whatever else he is, he's my friend. And if he won't listen to me, then he'll hear from Bianca.
And the first lesson would commence. If he simple instruction, it's now
More demons.
Take care of the team for me.
Small courtyard surrounded by the cliffs of the beach of the temple.
Hey!
And that was directly in the middle of the courtyard. Why not? It's the explain how before you
I hope Barrick is getting through to Solus.
Better
why
talk
not?
fast. Can't hold these demons operating.
Somehow why not move everything down and up? This is all the top from the it's divided by the like why they just
The veil is a wound inflicted upon this world. It must be healed.
By drowning the world in demons?
I have taken precautions to minimize the damage, Varric.
Minimize the... People are dying right now. You need to listen. Please.
People are always dying. It is what they do.
Do you want
What if
how?
see the we
It's what if
what
the storm
How shot.
fine. I'm either
Shot. It was a beautiful wave, almost emerald in source, and inscribing on the side.
Let's go now. Harding, keep the demons busy.
Good luck.
Stop. He pulled out aimlessly into the air, and let above him was cut out by a shadow. It looked like Master Dooku, the taller man looking out. Softly.
Anakin, I need you to jump to me. I'll catch you.
It's too hot. I can't do that.
And you have to trust the Force. Let it guide you out.
Okay, I can try.
No. As my old master used to say,
This is it.
do not. There is no try.
Anakin looked up, looked himself to the ground, as he felt completely air. He caught up the jump.
Why? Why tear down the veil? Knowing all the lives it'll cost.
We shared a journey years ago. Do you believe that I would do this if there was some other better option?
The pillar's weak, but
It isn't falling. We need to push it.
right.
Together. Now.
Good job, young Skywalker.
You came a long way and made a valiant effort, Varric, but this story does not end with my downfall.
Here's a lesson. Remember
Push.
that all is always a backup. Now, what is that that you have done?
But it was ancient language of Jedi. The Jedi got out of the reach. hard to believe that he could do it well. When the Jocasta, Jedi Archives, and Luke he had the Jocasta, right back to the offer. Just that she was letting him out, as his lights speed, each wanted to make sure that he had the light.
It says that peace will be honest, when light begins and stop his house. He means Malcolm's obvious. There's no coincidence. It's not all. It's the more sky here. This blade was always meant to be yours, and the Uturond knew that when it was first forged.
No.
Anakin, this blade is for you.
Anakin looked awestruck as he held the blade in his hands and looked it over. He was incredibly excited to wield this blade. He needed to learn how to use it first, but for now, Anakin could keep it and look forward to the day of which he'd be able to use the weapon. Though little did Anakin and Dooku realize how important this moment was for their bond as master and apprentice. Of course, Jin and Anakin had their bond, but Dooku and Anakin were rather stale with one another up until this moment. Across the galaxy on Coruscant, Obi-Wan woke up to a message on his communicator. It had been weeks since he left Satine a voicemail. He assumed she heard it and thought nothing of it, but Obi-Wan woke up in the corner of his room as he turned on his communicator and listened back to the message. It read as Satine said, as softly as she could, "My dearest Obi-Wan, I will treasure what we had when you were here by my side all those years ago. If you need me, I'm always here for you, Jedi or not." She apologized for not responding sooner. The message finally came through, and she wanted to make sure she got back to him as soon as possible. The communication then ended, and Obi-Wan laid his head back against the wall. A tear rolled down his eye. It meant everything to him for Satine to just respond. It was so kind and warm. It was obvious that Obi-Wan needed this. The question is, for Obi-Wan, was he ready to just forego the Jedi Order and visit Satine with the chance that she could have moved on or not? Obi-Wan couldn't wait though. He jumped up and ran to the hangar bay. He was going to Mandalore. On Andrillion, months would etch their way into years. Anakin's progress would be unfathomably positive. Anakin would be 15 by this point, and a lot had changed since he began his training. Anakin, Qui-Gon, and Dooku grew together exponentially well. Their bond was extremely familial. Anakin grew into his maturity extremely well as well. With Qui-Gon being his teacher, Anakin was able to feel attachments, and learn that attachments were a healthy way of growth for a Force user. Without being a Jedi, Qui-Gon was able to teach his beliefs to Anakin. Qui-Gon and Dooku both raised Anakin into an elegant young man. While Anakin was formerly a slave, the guidance of Jin and Dooku helped him healthily come to terms with his past and move on from the atrocities done to him as a child. It also helped that he was able to frequently go from Andrillion to Tatooine to visit his mother. Andrillion was also the perfect place for Anakin to train. He's surrounded by forests, the ancient ruins of the balanced group of Force users, and of course, he was with Jin and Dooku. Anakin found himself being exceptionally versatile with a lightsaber, though he didn't use any of the traditional lightsaber forms used by Jedi or Sith. Yes, Anakin was taught Form 2 by Dooku and Form 4 by Qui-Gon, but the Uturand had scrolls throughout the Buktor Temple that showed there was once a more powerful lightsaber form. Of course, only those who followed the way of the Uturand were likely to be able to master this form, but Dooku and Jin committed themselves to helping Anakin discover its secrets. The Uturand, while having mostly been former Jedi, combined their knowledge of the light side and their understanding of the dark to create a form that used elements of each side of the Force to its maximum. Taking the abilities to full range of acrobatic movements using the least amount of energy. The Uturand called this form Khmer, or Form 1. It wasn't by any means similar to a normal Form 1, because it was created by the Uturand. Most of its members creating this form used staves instead of lightsabers. It must be said that once the Uturand combined Khmer with a lightsaber, it became the perfect form of lightsaber combat. It wasn't overly offensive, and it wasn't overly defensive. Its acrobatics required that the user conserve their energy while maneuvering with a sense of command. The Uturand's understanding of not just the Force, but their weaponry allowed them to build the greatest lightsaber form the galaxy had ever seen. Qui-Gon and Dooku's training of Anakin was heavily inspired by their own moral beliefs, but they so happened to coincide with what the Uturand believed as well, a balance and tranquility within the Force that couldn't be stopped by light or dark. Anakin thrived with Qui-Gon as a father figure especially. The bond between Dooku and Anakin was special, but nothing like the one between Jin and Skywalker. On the first day on Andrilion, Qui-Gon treated Anakin like his son, and while Qui-Gon was certainly not a father, he filled the role with little to no issue. Qui-Gon didn't force his hand on Anakin, and he allowed Anakin to grow naturally, and when the time came, he and Dooku pushed Anakin to become the warrior he was in the moment. Specifically, Anakin, Dooku, and Qui-Gon were in the middle of a sparring session. Dooku backpedaled and Anakin struck forward, throwing his blade forward in a fury as Dooku blocked every strike homeward.
Rook.
Anakin pushed forward and then swung his blade
This is
around
where
as he
people
collided with Qui-Gon's
We
blade.
should.
Anakin was caught between both of his masters. Their grins told Skywalker that he had lost, but the confidence of the young Chosen One was unbelievable. Anakin swung his blade back and forth as he smacked against both Qui-Gon and Dooku's blade. Anakin stepped back as he ran forward and leaped into the air, placing his hand out over his head and using his hand to propel him over his two masters. Anakin then steadied himself around and turned as he focused on the blade forward, tapping against Dooku. As the master made a counter against him, Anakin stepped back and back again as he blocked every strike coming towards him. Anakin pulled Dooku's wrist forward as he rolled around Dooku's back and collided blades with Jin. Anakin pushed forward against Jin as the two green blades left the ruins. Anakin flung ferociously, but one wouldn't be able to tell based on the fact that every strike Anakin made looked as light as a feather, though Anakin was just using the up to a run form of lightsaber combat. Its movements were very light in appearance, but their strikes and landing destinations were very heartfelt. It was almost a defensive form used aggressively.